The vampire, a creature neither living nor dead, who must consume human blood to survive. For centuries, it was confined to the realm of myth and legend. That is, until 1978, when fact became stranger than fiction. This is the true crime story of Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento. Richard Trenton Chase was born on May 23, 1950, in Sacramento, California. From an early age, Chase's behavior was concerning. As a child, he exhibited all three behaviors associated with the McDonald triad: cruelty to animals, obsession with fire setting, and persistent bedwetting past the age of 5. The theory suggests that children who exhibit all three of these markers are more likely to develop violent and sexually predatory behavior. In his teens, Chase began using drugs like marijuana and LSD, which exacerbated his existing mental illness. In his teens, Chase also discovered that he was impotent. He sought help for his impotence from a psychologist, who diagnosed him as schizophrenic. However, his mother refused to accept the diagnosis. Chase exhibited a fragile hold on reality. He began to believe he was a member of the James Younger gang, outlaws who had died more than 100 years earlier. He would also hold oranges on his head, misguidedly believing that his brain could absorb vitamin C through diffusion. And he frequently walked around the family home naked. Chase managed to graduate high school, and in 1968, he began attending American River College. However, his mental state continued to decline, and he dropped out in 1971. By this time, he had developed extreme hypochondria. He believed that his heart would occasionally stop beating, and that someone had stolen his pulmonary artery. Despite the fact that such a condition would be fatal, Chase remained convinced it was possible. He also believed his cranial bones had separated and were moving around. He even shaved his head to observe this supposed movement. By then, his parents had divorced, and he alternated between living with his mother and father. However, his erratic behavior soon became too much for either of them to handle. His father kicked him out of the house, and in 1972, his mother called the police after Chase hit her in the head with a telephone. Despite his behavior, his parents refused to believe he was mentally ill. Chase then moved in with his grandmother in Los Angeles. His uncle got him a job as a bus driver. However, he was fired because he never cleaned or maintained the bus. He also briefly worked in a paint shop, but was fired after only a few days. Chase returned to Sacramento in the summer of 1973. His mental state had deteriorated, and he was convinced something was physically wrong with him. He cut photos of human organs from medical books and taped them to the walls of his room in an attempt to diagnose himself. He begged his mother for help, and she took him to see several doctors, none of whom found any physical ailments. However, Dr. Donald Ansel diagnosed Chase with a psychiatric disturbance of major proportion. In December 1973, Chase went to the emergency room of American River Hospital. He claimed that he was in cardiac arrest and that his blood had stopped flowing. He also claimed to have lost his pulmonary vein. In his report, Dr. Irwin Lyons described Chase as a filthy, disheveled, deteriorated, and foul-smelling white male. Chase spent 2 days in the psychiatric ward and was diagnosed with acute paranoid schizophrenia. He was prescribed medication for his schizophrenia, and for the next 2 years, his mental health improved. It is unknown whether he stopped his medication or resumed using recreational drugs. But after a period of 2 years, his mental health began to deteriorate rapidly. He soon became too much for his parents to handle, and they moved him into his own apartment. Unsupervised, Chase's behavior became even more unhinged. He began riding his bicycle to a rabbit farm, where he would purchase living rabbits. He would kill the rabbits, drink their blood, and consume their raw organs. In 1976, Chase was rushed to the emergency room with blood poisoning, the result of injecting rabbit blood directly into his veins. He was later transferred to the American River Hospital psychiatric ward and then to Beverly Manor Psychiatric Hospital. There, the staff nicknamed him Dracula. Due to his fixation on blood, he would catch birds through the hospital window, break their necks, and drink their blood. He also stole syringes and extracted blood from therapy dogs. Chase was treated with psychotropic drugs, and despite staff objections, he was deemed no longer a danger to society. He was released into his mother's care. His mother disliked how the new medication affected him, claiming it made him like a zombie. And so, against doctors' orders, she made the fatal decision to stop his medication. Chase then returned to his own apartment, and his behavior and mental state deteriorated further. He no longer allowed anyone into his apartment, which had become a slaughterhouse. His neighbors reported seeing Chase bring home numerous dogs, but they never saw the animals again. He had progressed from eating birds and rabbits to eating dogs. He would buy puppies, hang them up, cut open their stomachs, drink their blood, and eat their raw organs. In 1977, Chase was able to purchase a .22 caliber pistol by lying about his mental health on the application form. His neighbors later reported hearing gunshots coming from his apartment. He used the gun to shoot the dogs in the head, making it easier to collect their blood. He also claimed to have shot at the voices in his head, and holes in the walls of his apartment would later confirm this. On December 29, 1977, Richard Trenton Chase committed his first murder. In a drive-by shooting, he randomly killed 51-year-old Ambrose Griffin. The father of two was unloading groceries when Chase shot him. He later claimed to have committed the murder because he was angry with his mother. Over the next month, Chase carried out a series of brutal murders. His methods were grotesque. On January 23, 1978, while she was taking out her trash, Chase approached Teresa Wallen. Chase shot Wallen, who was 3 months pregnant, in the hand, the cheek, and the head. Despite his lifelong impotence, he then engaged in necrophilia with her corpse, while stabbing her stomach with a butcher knife. He mutilated her body and drank her blood, using a yogurt cup he found in her trash. Her mutilated body was discovered by her husband when he returned from work. Then, on January 27, Chase went to the home of Evelyn Maroth and brutally killed everyone in the house. Near the door, police found the body of Evelyn's friend, Dan Meredith, whom Chase had shot twice in the head. He also shot 6-year-old Jason Maroth, Evelyn Maroth, and her 2-year-old nephew, David Ferreira. The toddler was shot while he lay in his crib. Chase then engaged in necrophilia with Evelyn Maroth's corpse. Her body was also extensively mutilated. While Chase was in the process of mutilating the bodies, Jason Maroth's 6-year-old friend, Tracy Grangard, knocked on the door. Startled, Chase fled the scene, taking David Ferreira's body with him and driving away in Meredith's car. Tracy's parents called the police, who arrived to find the house in a state of carnage. Neighbors of the Maroth family reported seeing a disheveled, long-haired man in an orange ski parka knocking on doors just before the murders. Using descriptions of the suspect, police created a sketch of the killer. Later, Nancy Westfall, who had attended high school with Chase, recognized him from the sketch. She reported that Chase had approached her while she was shopping. He was dirty, wore a yellow ski parka, and had bloodstains on the white shirt he wore underneath. When police searched Chase's apartment, they found clear evidence linking him to the murders. All his eating and drinking utensils were soaked in blood, as were the refrigerator, floor, walls, and ceiling. Several dog collars were also found. Most disturbingly, they found rotting organs from both animals and human victims. However, police only discovered the decomposed body of baby Ferreira in March 1978. His body was found in a box along with the keys to Meredith's car. Chase had decapitated the child and eaten parts of his brain. He would later claim, because he was hungry. During his trial, Chase pleaded not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. He made several bizarre statements, including claiming, "I didn't kill anybody, just a few people." He also claimed that he had committed the murders because he had been poisoned by iodine or mercury. Chase also blamed the killings on his need for blood. believing that a lack of it prevented him from living a normal life. Prosecutor Ronald W. Tochterman argued that while Chase was mentally disturbed, his behavior showed signs of premeditation, and that he knew what he was doing was wrong. Doctors who interviewed Chase supported the prosecution's position, as did the jury. On May 8, 1979, Richard Chase was found guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. In prison, Chase continued to exhibit psychotic behavior. He wrote several documents and gave interviews in which he expressed his delusional theories. He blamed the murders on UFOs, the CIA, and the Nazis. He also claimed that while he had killed, it wasn't his fault, because he needed blood to stay alive. The prison inmates of San Quentin feared Chase because of his bizarre behavior and the violent nature of his crimes, and they tried to persuade him to commit suicide. On December 26, 1980, at the age of 30, Richard Chase was found dead in his prison cell at San Quentin. His death was ruled a suicide after his autopsy revealed that he had died from an overdose of Sinequan, an antidepressant that had been prescribed to him by doctors. Instead of taking the medication, Chase had secretly collected the pills until he gathered a lethal dose. Chase believed himself to be a vampire who needed blood to survive, when in reality, he was a mentally ill individual who needed medical treatment. While there were clear indications that his deteriorating mental state and erratic behavior would lead to tragedy, these signs were fatally ignored.